started in my impact. I don't want skin to skin.
Why won't you pay back to people from CryptoZoo?
I'm working on it, Billy.
So yeah, he's working on getting back the money to the fancy scam, but meanwhile buying Nina a $1.9 million engagement ring. So much about that. This fight seems to be extremely personal to Logan after Donis made Nina's body count public.
You told me I couldn't say anything because Eddie was being investigated by the FBI and that was confidential information. It's all over the internet. I've been let on for a year, bro. I've also asked you to audit the contract for the game and see where the money went so many times, and that never happened either. What did you do?
Tried to help to get the project done. That's all I did.
I think there's a piece of information being left out.
Okay. Well, there's no information that I'm not telling you.
Just a year ago, Prime was everywhere. Kids were fighting over bottles, influencers were pretending it didn't taste like battery acid, and every YouTuber with a pulse had one in their hand. But now, the hype's gone. Logan Paul can't pay people to pretend it's good anymore, and KSI stuck trying to convince us that metaverse hydration was a real business plan. The downfall of Prime is finally here, and honestly, it's about time that drink that tasted like wet socks finally got humbled. And this isn't your average 20 to 30% market drop. We're talking a 70% revenue loss and nearly 70 million in lawsuits. That's not a decline, that's a nosedive. So yeah, just sit with that for a second. Keep that in perspective because the hottest drink in the world just became the fastest to crash and burn. And does that even come as a surprise? I mean, it's not just that it tastes awful. The ingredient list looks like it was mixed in a high school chemistry lab. It's giving straight up Breaking Bad vibes. And now it's sitting in the clearance aisle next to unsold Christmas candy because no one wants that stuff anymore. The hype died, the shelves are full, and Prime officially became the definition of fell off. So to give you some background, back in 2022, KSI and Logan Paul dropped what was basically the Sheen version of Gatorade, bright neon colors, bottles that looked like Fortnite skins, and a marketing campaign so over the top it made you think drinking one would boost your clout stat. The whole idea was simple: we're the Gatorade of YouTube. And for a while it worked. Prime was sold out everywhere, flipping for triple the price online, and everyone thought it was the next billion-dollar brand. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. It didn't even taste good. The entire thing ran on hype, influencer power, and the fear of missing out. It wasn't hydration, it was social validation in a bottle. But that kind of illusion only lasts so long before people wake up and realize they're just drinking overpriced sugar water and gamer colors. But here's what people didn't realize at the time. It was never about everyone buying Prime, it was about making people think everyone was. They weren't selling a drink, they were selling scarcity. Every few weeks, they'd drop some exclusive flavor, slap limited edition on the label, and watch chaos unfold. Stores would get tiny shipments on purpose, just enough to make people fight over them and post about it online. It's basic psychology. If you make something seem rare, people convince themselves they need it, no matter how pointless it actually is. It's like when people camp outside for a limited edition McDonald's sauce or spend hundreds on a brick with a Supreme logo on it. Prime did the exact same thing. The hype wasn't organic, it was manufactured scarcity disguised as popularity. Not to mention, they locked in massive sponsorships with Arsenal and the UFC, which sent the brand through the roof. Suddenly, this glorified sports drink was being treated like a luxury item. You had bottles of Prime selling for $20 to $50 each, and kids were actually paying that, just so they could post it on TikTok or Instagram like it was some kind of status symbol. But every single time someone actually drank it, the reaction was the same. Wait, this is what I just spent $50 on? It wasn't about the flavor. It wasn't even about hydration. It was all about that FOMO, that desperate feeling of not wanting to be left out. Prime didn't sell a drink. They sold the illusion of belonging. Now let's talk about the controversy that really started pulling the mask off of Prime. First, you had a US senator actually stepping in to question what this drink even was, and that's when things got serious. See, a single can of Prime Energy packs around 250 milligrams of caffeine, which for context is about the same as 3 Red Bulls or 6 cans of Coke. That's fine for adults who know their limits, but here's the catch. Prime wasn't being marketed for adults. The packaging looked like a Saturday morning cartoon. Neon colors, shiny bottles, names like Ice Pop and Metamoon. It wasn't giving performance fuel, it was giving Fortnite loot drop. And that's exactly who it attracted. Preteens, middle schoolers, even younger kids who saw their favorite YouTubers drinking it and wanted to feel part of that hype. But kids were downing multiple cans at a time without realizing what 250 milligrams of caffeine can do to them. We're talking heart palpitations, anxiety spikes, and caffeine overdoses being reported by parents and schools. It stopped being just a marketing problem and turned into an actual public health concern. Prime went from being the cool drink of the internet to the one literally getting called out by Congress. And you know how it goes. When something gets this big in the food world, Gordon Ramsay's gonna have something to say about it. And honestly, his reaction might be the most accurate review Prime's ever gotten. He starts off stunned that it costs 20 quid, because yeah, imagine paying the price of an actual meal for a bottle of neon sugar water. Then he takes a sip, pauses for a second, and goes, "What is that? Is that perfume?" And you can't even argue with him, because that's exactly what it tastes like. Artificial, chemical, and just weirdly fragrant for something that's supposed to hydrate you. It's the perfect summary of Prime as a product: flashy packaging, premium price, and a taste that belongs in a Sephora aisle, not a fridge. And if all of this wasn't wild enough already, things hit a new level when a US senator officially called on the FDA to investigate Prime. Think about that. An internet-born energy drink became such a public concern that the Food and Drug Administration had to get involved. The issue was simple, but serious. The massive caffeine content combined with how aggressively it was marketed to kids. And if things weren't messy enough, Prime's empire started cracking from the inside. The latest hit? A $13 million lawsuit for their own coconut water supplier Agravana. Yeah, this wasn't even about marketing or caffeine anymore, this was about unpaid bills. Agravana claims Prime ordered massive shipments of ingredients, then just didn't pay. We're talking binding purchase agreements, real business contracts, not just influencer drama. And the wild part, this isn't even their first lawsuit with the same supplier, they've been at it before. Prime, of course, denied everything, said the claims were false, filed a counterclaim, and blamed Agravana for not meeting quality standards. But let's be real. When a brand that built its identity on hydration and transparency gets hit with back-to-back supplier lawsuits, it's not a good look. And just when you thought the lawsuits couldn't stack any higher, boom, another one drops. This time, it's an investigation into whether Prime's grape hydration drink contained toxic PFAS chemicals. Yeah, you heard that right. Toxic chemicals. Attorneys actually launched a class action investigation to find out if people were unknowingly sipping on forever chemicals, the kind used in non-stick pans and firefighting foam. Stuff that doesn't break down. Not in your body, not in the environment. It's the last thing you want in something marketed as a hydration drink. And this isn't even the end of it. There are lawsuits popping up left and right, supplier disputes, chemical investigations, false advertising claims, you name it. At this point, it feels like every few months there's a new headline dragging Prime back into court. So if you add it all up, the unpaid supplier cases, the caffeine controversy, the toxic chemical investigation, you're looking at somewhere between $90 to $100 million worth of lawsuits tied to one brand. And that's just what's public. The revenue story is even worse. In 2024, Prime's UK revenue fell by 70%, dropping from 112 million to just 32 million pounds. In a single year, we're going from dipping to free falling. And while the company tried to sugarcoat it by calling it a strategic review process, the numbers don't lie. Their profit in the UK crashed by 92%, going from over 3.9 million down to 312,000. That's basically spare change for a brand that was supposed to be the next Red Bull. Even in the US, things weren't much better. By June 2024, Prime's US sales were down 40% compared to the previous year. Less new buyers, fewer repeat purchases, and people just stopped caring. So yeah, between the lawsuits, the caffeine controversies, and the massive sales crash, Prime's hydration empire is starting to look more like a sinking ship. It wouldn't even be a surprise that they're on the verge of bankruptcy.
You told me I couldn't say anything because Eddie was being investigated by the FBI and that was confidential information. It's all over the internet. I've been let on for a year, bro. I've also asked you to audit the contract for the game and see where the money went so many times, and that never happened either. Do you see how this looks?
I see how it looks.
What did you do?
Tried to help to get the project done. That's all I did.
I think there's a piece of information being left out.
Okay. Well, there's no information that I'm not telling you.
Logan Paul just upgraded his career from influencer to full-blown FBI suspect, all thanks to his epic CryptoZoo dumpster fire. CoffeeZilla absolutely torched Logan Paul with a 3-part YouTube expose that felt less like content and more like a public execution with bonus receipts. He dragged Logan's entire CryptoZoo circus and straight up labeled him as a serial scammer in front of millions. He interviewed victims who lost real money, dropped screenshots of shady convos, leaked emails, and exposed dev team drama department by himself.
How much did you guys make from CryptoZoo?
I lost around $50,000 in CryptoZoo.
I lost $40,000.
I lost around 15,000 US dollars.
I lost $25,000.
$120,000.
$500,000 Australian, which is $500,000 in CryptoZoo.
But this wasn't just drama farming. CoffeeZilla went full whistleblower mode, turning over the crypto skeletons to the FBI and SEC, actual government agencies, not Twitter threads. We're talking major accusations, intentional market manipulation, insider trading, and Logan's name wasn't on the sidelines. It was allegedly front and center, not an innocent middleman, not a confused investor, one of the main architects of the whole scam stew.
Let's start with how Logan Paul revealed that CoffeeZilla was a whistleblower who drew in the attention of the federal government to investigate the CryptoZoo team. This, Paul says, was by all appearances a deliberate attempt to advance a false narrative to the federal government. Okay, right off the bat, deliberate false accusations to the government come with very serious penalties, so that is a very heavy accusation made by Paul here. But anyway, he continues. The reason that Findeisen misled the government so brazenly, of course, was that his goal was to prompt the government to investigate and build cases against plaintiffs specifically, whom he had never even spoken to about the project, in order to further harm plaintiff and, he hoped, ultimately claim credit and raise his own profile in the event the investigations resulted in criminal charges or civil penalties against him.
Logan's legal team wants everyone to believe the feds showed up, sniffed around for 5 minutes, shrugged and walked off like nothing to see here. He swears the SEC closing its case means he's innocent. He swears the FBI going quiet means everyone's cool. He basically tried to flex that the investigations are dormant, which is wild coming from a guy who allegedly got subpoenaed, raided, and forced to cough up his electronics like this was some Netflix documentary about Ponzi schemes. Dormant where? His email inbox?
Paul claims that CoffeeZilla didn't give the government any information about any other bad actors on the CryptoZoo team, like Eddie Ibanez and Jake Greenbaum. And he says that because of that, CoffeeZilla was sending the government down this rabbit hole to focus specifically on Logan Paul and to ignore everyone else on the CryptoZoo team. Setting aside the fact that CoffeeZilla showed in response that he did in fact provide a bunch of information to the FBI about the entire CryptoZoo team and that this included information about Jake Greenbaum and Eddie Ibanez, Logan Paul doesn't really talk about this in any of his filings other than to say that the SEC closed out its investigation, which he argues means they found no wrongdoing, and he says that all other federal investigation is basically dormant and has gone nowhere, which he says means basically the same thing. No wrongdoing.
What's worse is that he convinced his fans to buy NFT eggs, like actual cartoon zoo eggs. Unironically, this wasn't satire, this wasn't a joke, this was CryptoZoo, Logan's big Web3 brainchild where the genius plan was buy an egg, hatch it into an animal, and breed them for crypto rewards. Because apparently what the internet needed most in this economy was Pokemon Go with financial trauma.
CryptoZoo is a blockchain project that I created about 1.5 years ago. You buy these eggs on the blockchain and you can hatch them into what are called base animals. And then you can breed your base animals with each other to create fun looking viral hybrid offspring that have a rarity scale.
Now the feds are circling like sharks on a blood trail. The FBI and SEC launched real deal investigations to whether Logan and his crew ran a rigged operation. They're digging into whether anonymous wallets linked to Logan bought up tons of Zoo tokens before he hyped it publicly, then cashed out when the price spiked. If true, that's textbook insider trading, plus throwing in some good old market manipulation for flavor. The kind of charges that don't end with apology videos, they end with courtrooms and subpoenas. Flash forward to February 13th, 2023, SEC reaches out to CoffeeZilla, not Logan, to talk voluntarily. Meanwhile, Logan's team gets blasted the next day. SEC goes full turbo mode with a formal document request about CryptoZoo and Dink Doink. Then on that same cursed calendar date, Logan gets subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury. And if that wasn't enough, Central District of California drops an amended search warrant to comb through whatever sad little notes app plan he had for the project, all for evidence of security fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy.
On February 13th, 2023, he says the SEC reached out to him asking if he would speak with them on a voluntary basis in connection with the investigation. Then the next day, a bunch of stuff happens. For one thing, the SEC issued a formal request for documents regarding CryptoZoo and Dink Doink. And in response, CoffeeZilla submits supplemental information to the SEC and FBI to include a more thorough analysis. And on the same day, Logan Paul receives a subpoena to testify regarding CryptoZoo before a grand jury. And not only that, but the Central District of California issued an amended search warrant for all of Paul's electronic devices for evidence of securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy related to CryptoZoo.
March 7th, SEC comes back for seconds, subpoenaing him again, this time for more CryptoZoo dirt and other sketchy crypto nonsense like Dink Doink, that thing no one believed in except Logan and maybe 3 bots. Then June 10th, 2024, Logan actually gets deposed. Not a rumor, not a maybe, it happened. And then in March 2025, the SEC shifts gears because of a new administration and starts handing out closing letters like Oprah. But not because everything's fine, just because they're chilling on crypto cases in general, and CoffeeZilla cites actual articles backing that up. So Logan waving the SEC closure around like a get out of jail free card? Bro, read the fine print.
And on March 7th, the SEC subpoenaed Paul for information related to CryptoZoo and other alleged crypto scams Paul has been involved with, including Dink Doink. Then on June 10th, 2024, Paul was deposed in the SEC investigation. After that, on March 14th, 2025, CoffeeZilla says that with the change in presidential administration, there's also a change in policy at the SEC. Specifically, the SEC decides to scale back its crypto enforcement action and issues closing letters to Logan Paul and many others. And here he cites to an article talking about this policy change, basically saying, yeah, there are other reasons why the SEC isn't doubling up on the FBI's investigation of you, Logan.
But plot twist, the FBI isn't done. According to CoffeeZilla, they were still actively poking around Logan's mess in 2025, which means this thing's not over, like, at all. And if the feds are still sniffing around, it's probably not because they're fans.
However, CoffeeZilla says the FBI investigation remains, and he says they continue to express interest in Paul as recently as early 2025. And he says, as far as he knows, this investigation is ongoing.
Naturally, none of it worked at all. The game was vaporware. The eggs were digital paperweights. People dumped thousands into it and got absolutely cooked. And not in a, well, startup life is hard kind of way. More like a retook your money, ghosted you, and then blamed each other on Discord kind of way. Half the team vanished. The developers rage quit. Logan Paul went into full damage control and started playing hot potato with the blame, pretending we didn't all see him promoting it like it was the second coming of Dogecoin. And let's be clear, this isn't just, oh no, crypto is volatile. This is looking more and more like a staged rug pull wrapped in influencer hype and monetized trust. And Logan, allegedly not just involved, but possibly driving the damn getaway car.
He promises the world a fun blockchain game that earns you money, and he did nothing, and the project was left abandoned, and people were like miserable, complaining. No one says it.
Logan did what every influencer does when backed into a corner with evidence, receipts, and public humiliation. He threatened to sue. Classic. He whipped out the old defamation card like it was a Uno reverse, posted some puffed up video trying to act like he was the victim of a slander campaign, then ranted about legal action on his podcast like anyone was actually buying it, and then poof, deleted it. Just quietly vanished like the roadmap for CryptoZoo.
CoffeeZilla. I watched your 3-part series called Investigating Logan Paul's Biggest Scam, and like many on this platform, you have successfully used my name for views and money. While your work used to be impartial, your addiction to clicks has clouded your judgment, and you've made very real errors with very real repercussions. Coffee, you took a shot at my reputation, so in this video today, I'm going to be defending myself with facts, something that you have gotten in the habit of twisting as you continue to morph from an investigator to a gossip channel.
Dude swung into legal tough guy mode, tried to bark, realized no one was intimidated, and moonwalked straight back into silence. Then came the rebrand attempt. Logan tried flipping the whole narrative and claimed he was the real victim, said he didn't scam anyone, just got bamboozled by the shady clowns he hired to build CryptoZoo. Apparently, he was just this innocent little guy surrounded by cartoon villain devs who stole all the money, vanished into the blockchain void, and left him holding the egg bag. He insisted he never made a dime and even lost money, because that's always the play when caught in a grift. Gaslight everyone into thinking you're actually too stupid to be a scammer. June 2024 rolled around and Logan Paul finally pulled the trigger on that lawsuit. Over a year later, but he didn't sue over the original receipts CoffeeZilla dropped. Nah, Logan targeted the follow-up videos where CoffeeZilla kept calling him a scammer and dragging his so-called reimbursement attempts through the mud, because apparently the original scandal wasn't enough drama, and Logan wanted to make sure everyone knew he could keep the saga alive in court.
As you can imagine, I was not cleared from legal to discuss much of this, including the legal process being undertaken and the criminal investigations going on during the fallout, but
he claimed CoffeeZilla wasn't just sharing opinions. Oh no, these were hard-hitting, defamatory facts that wrecked his precious reputation and cost him cold hard cash. The Texas judge didn't immediately slam the door either. Nah, the judge basically said, okay, you've made it past the first round, meaning Logan's complaint wasn't complete nonsense and the legal circus was officially on. The lawsuit got the green light to move forward, and the internet collectively rolled their eyes so hard it could power a small city. CoffeeZilla, the guy who basically exposed Logan's CryptoZoo nightmare, wasn't having any of it. He called the whole thing a flimsy, desperate ploy, the legal equivalent of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. He claimed Logan's using the lawsuit like a censoring hammer to shut down any more digging and to pry open CoffeeZilla's case files, hoping to find dirt or just stall the wave of bad press. Well, new court filings are not in Logan's favor. Turns out the dude wasn't even trying to defend himself with that lawsuit against CoffeeZilla. Nah, that whole legal circus was just a full-blown harassment campaign disguised as a reputation cleanse. Like, he straight up admitted in text messages that the point was to make CoffeeZilla's life a nightmare, not to clear his name, not to prove anything legit, just pure petty flexing and weaponizing the courts to throw shade and stress on the guy who exposed his crypto disaster.
I really thought we'd never know that the drugs given to Logan Paul in WWE is making him sue a fellow YouTuber, who in my opinion only called him out to own his with CryptoZoo. It's even more discouraging to see this level of ignorance from a guy who is about to become a dad. Instead of using all the money he thinks he has to pay for lawyers, pay for court sessions, pay the gravity bill, and many other fees, he should just simply pay off the people he screwed. How difficult is that exactly? I honestly hope CoffeeZilla's legal team makes this prick make another apology video in court.
This isn't just your usual influencer meltdown. This is influencer meltdown 2.0, upgraded with legal venom and a big-ass ego trip. Logan's basically playing the villain in his own sad crypto soap opera, using the legal system like a bully uses a lunch tray, swinging it around just to intimidate and distract. Meanwhile, CoffeeZilla squad isn't buying any of this weak sauce. They're calling it out for what it really is, a sneaky fishing expedition. Logan's not here to fight fair. He's on a covert mission to dive into CoffeeZilla's private information, snooping around for anything he can grab to save his own ass in the looming class action shitstorm tied to CryptoZoo. You know, that giant dumpster fire everyone's whispering about? Yeah, that one. So this lawsuit, it's less about truth or justice and more about Logan trying to find any digital crumb that might get him off the hook.
Why won't you pay back to people from CryptoZoo?
I'm working on it, Billy.
So yeah, he's working on getting back the money to the fancy scam, but meanwhile buying Nina a $1.9 million engagement ring. So much about that. This fight seems to be extremely personal to Logan after Donis made Nina's body count public. You can't get mad at him, those images were always public.
Logan's legal game plan screams desperate last-ditch power move from a guy who knows he's sinking fast in scandal and just wants to drag his accuser down with him. He tried the classic hiding all the dirty laundry play by slapping a confidential label on a stack of court documents and begging the judge to keep them locked away from public eyes.
Now we know that the evidence he desperately tried to keep secret was in fact a number of federal investigations by the SEC and FBI into the whole CryptoZoo team, including Logan Paul. Now, of course, we've all known for a long time that Paul had to answer to some kind of criminal investigators. In fact, Logan Paul has said so himself.
His team claimed that showing these documents would only harm and embarrass him, insisting that none of it actually mattered to the legal fight. They're acting like these papers contain super top secret state secrets, but let's be real, it's probably just stuff that makes Logan look bad. Their main argument, These documents don't have anything to do with the actual case. CoffeeZilla just threw them in there to make Logan look bad and wreck his reputation. Logan's lawyers lean heavily on a protective order, which is basically a legal rule that lets courts keep certain info private during a case. They argue that just because someone files something in court, it doesn't mean everyone gets to see it, especially if it's irrelevant or embarrassing. It's like putting a keep out sign around stuff they don't want anyone digging into. They also pointed out that CoffeeZilla could challenge the confidentiality if he really wanted to, but until the court rules otherwise, those documents should stay sealed tight. So for now, these papers are stuck in a secret legal limbo hidden away from public view. CoffeeZilla's legal team dropped all kinds of receipts, whistleblower reports, group chat logs, meeting notes, you know, the kind of receipts that make you go, yeesh, when you realize this isn't some backyard hustle. Logan got hit with a subpoena to testify, and federal authorities even issued a search warrant to dig through his CryptoZoo communications. The feds aren't just casually curious, they're full-on crawling through his DMs and emails. Logan's lawyers tried hard to convince the court this stuff wasn't relevant, painting it as some shady smear campaign cooked up by CoffeeZilla to destroy Logan's reputation. They framed the whistleblower reports as misleading and unfair, like CoffeeZilla was trying to pin the blame on Logan while the real CryptoZoo masterminds got off scot-free. Classic defense move. It's not about the facts, it's about ruining my image. Spoiler alert, that excuse didn't fly. Trying to seal all that info backfired spectacularly. Instead of quietly burying the scandal, it made everyone even more curious, turning the whole legal mess into a viral spectacle. And as always, y'all know what time it is. Time to get the verdict on Logan Paul. I completely forgot it existed. That's how fast Prime fell off. It went from people fighting in grocery aisles to sitting next to expired Celsius cans collecting dust. The hype didn't fade. It straight up vanished like it never happened. Never tried it, never will. You can tell the hype train completely missed this guy, and honestly, he probably saved himself the regret. Because why spend 20 bucks on something that tastes like melted candy and regret when water and common sense are free? Anything from Logan Paul is a red flag. Haven't watched the full vid yet, but if Logan Paul and KSI say it's marketed for adults, why did they put Prime bottles inside their Lunchables knockoff when that is advertised for kids? And they're not wrong. The whole "it's for adults" claim falls apart the second you realize they were literally shoving Prime bottles into kids' lunchbox products. You can't market caffeine-packed drinks to minors and then act surprised when parents start calling the FDA. It's like saying, "Don't worry, it's totally safe," while handing out glow sticks that explode. Even the worst Gatorade flavor is still better than any Prime. So there we have it. Prime's meteoric rise turned into one of the fastest collapses in internet brand history. In just 2 years, revenue in the UK fell 70%, profits tanked over 90%, and US sales dropped 40%. Add nearly $100 million in lawsuits, FDA scrutiny, and chemical investigations, and the empire started eating itself alive. What began as the YouTuber Gatorade ended up as a clearance aisle cautionary tale. Proof that hype can sell anything, but it can't save something that was never good to begin with.